All right. Oops. I need to spotlight myself. So today we're going to make pasta puttanesca. And Fred, you want to explain why this is something you make regularly?
Well, one of the reasons I make it regularly because I really like it. It's easy, it's quick, and usually uh, these are the kind of stuff you would maybe normally have in your pantry. And I make a point of having these things because they stay forever.
Well, yeah, I mean it's all canned or jarred stuff, so
Yeah.
you can keep this well stocked for an emergency, like higher end meal that you can make quickly, I guess, huh?
Yeah, if people come over suddenly and you got to whip something up. Let me talk a little bit, since how we have quite a bit of time, talk a little bit about the so-called history. The most popular history was that this was developed in the port of Naples, and that the hookers, the prostitutes, were there, and when the sailors came in, had been at sea for long periods of time without any female company or any decent food in those old days, the prostitutes would whip this up because, again, they didn't have any refrigeration or anything, and none of this really required it. You know, capers, all that's pickled, and the olives are, pickled, and they just whipped this together. And then when those sailors showed up, boy, they would smell this great food coming out, and they said, yeah, they'd always put red peppers in there because that would really warm up those sailors for some action. So that's the best story, whether it's true or not. It's still a good story.
Yeah. So, all righty, let's go through the ingredients. If you want to mention them, and I'll see the file here. I mean, of course, olive oil, right? And if we're making pasta, of course, you have to have some spaghetti pasta. What else we got here? Garlic, yeah. I've got a bunch of cloves of garlic. I'll have to chop them up. There's no onions in this, but I suppose you could put some onions.
Yeah, there's no onions, but you could put them in, and there's no mushrooms, but you could also add them if you'd like.
With the exception of the garlic, everything else is canned. Although it does say some grated Parmesan. So capers.
Yeah.
Those are like a pickled, I forget what a caper actually is.
Kind of like a little berry. It grows on a bush.
Anchovies, the little salted fishes.
That may be more than you need, but it's up to your own taste. Let me just say one thing about anchovies. A lot of people got this thing about, oh, don't I get pizza? Do you want anchovies? Oh, no, I hate anchovies. I don't like them, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is that anchovies, when you cook, like in this dish, they just disappear, and they are a big flavor enhancer, and they really give that umami flavor to a lot of dishes. So if you're kind of put off by anchovies, this is a great chance to, you won't even know they're in there, but it really enhances the flavor. There's no fishiness.
There's a lot of really strong flavors. I mean, we've got capers and olives, tomatoes, anchovies, and red pepper. You'd think all this flavor would overwhelm it, but it's a lot of flavor, but it's not a very much of each thing.
That's right.
Put a little bit of each thing. Now, myself personally, I always like to cook for a lot of people, so I'm going to do a double recipe. So what's in the chat is just, a single recipe, but I'll do a double one. And of course, I guess, Fred, you're going to tell me what to do because, what do you call it? Fred actually just cooked this a few days ago, and we're stepping in. This is a backup. So first thing you had a pot of water, right?
Yeah, get your water going.
All right.
And if it starts to boil, early and it's boiling away, you can you can just turn down the fire. But it helps to get that going because this dish goes pretty fast, and then you have to wait for all the water to boil. So I always get the water going. You can always, once it starts boiling.
Leslie wants to say something.
I was going to wait because, you know,
Go
I
ahead,
was trying
Leslie.
not to interrupt.
Go ahead, Leslie.
When Orr gave the name, he said pasta something, and I didn't get it, and I want to hear the full name and how it's spelled, so I can write that down.
Yeah, it's called Puttanesca, Puttanesca, and it's in the chat under there's a link to the recipe, and it's got Puttanesca in there.
Puttanesca, thank you.
And then Putta is like prostitute, sort of, in Italian and a few other languages. So,
well, I'll be darned.
Okay, so you want to put some oil in your pan, in your frying pan. It calls for a 1/4 cup of oil.
I always make the mistake of not preheating my oil before I start putting.
Yeah, so that's what you want. That's
plenty. And then you are not measuring your oil.
Yeah, you don't have to, but that's a lot, but it's okay.
I'm doing a double batch, remember?
Oh, that's enough for a double batch.
A 1/2 cup. Oh, wow.
So,
you never have too much olive oil.
I mean, that's part of this recipe is I could see it's very forgiving, but you could very easily put too much of one flavor because all the flavors are too strong, right?
Yeah.
So
while that's heating up, you want to get your garlic going. And remember, you have to be real careful with garlic because it can burn really quickly. So the good thing with this recipe...
I put the oil in, then I didn't put the pan on. Let me turn the pan on.
Yeah.
After all that.
I mean, what's good about this recipe is the garlic, as soon as it's kind of, 1 minute of it, it just gets fragrant. You can open up the can of tomatoes because all the other ingredients are going to kind of go right in there. You can get those tomatoes that you can pour in there, and that way that'll keep the garlic from, overcooking.
Basically, you just get the garlic going, and then.
Now I take that back. Open up your anchovies, and because you want to sort of add the anchovies just about the same time as the garlic.
Okay. Let me
chop up your garlic.
How fine? I guess we don't have to chop this garlic up super fine because it's going to be in a big sauce.
Yeah.
I mean, with garlic, I always like to just get the side of the knife and push down on it. And then you pretty much got it all crushed. And then you can just do a cross. What do you call it? And if you really want to mince it, you can do it the other direction as well. But I don't know. I use a lot of garlic. It's getting to be the end of winter now, and this is all garlic that I got from a local farmer, a whole bunch of it in the fall. And so I'm getting close to the end of my stash.
I have a little garlic trivia for you, or I was watching a show the other day, and they said that elephant garlic is not really garlic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even
though,
what is elephant garlic?
It's not the same plant. It's closer to a leek, but it does have some of that same.
Because I mean, this is elephant garlic, and it definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look any different to me, and
well, it's generally milder, they say.
Well, this one's definitely not mild.
Okay, so what you just now chopped, was that elephant garlic or not?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know there was. I didn't know
that right there is. I mean, I have a really big hand. It's like half the size of the hand. And so this right here has only like 4 cloves or 5 cloves.
Okay, stir your garlic up so it doesn't burn.
Okay, and then you said...
Yeah, get anchovies ready.
It says only 4 fillets. This right. I mean...
Well, you're making a big batch, so... Get a few of those
whenever
ready.
I open something up, I never like to save anything.
Right. Yeah, so
Especially-
get some of those ready because you're going to,
Oh, that's pretty strong.
Well, is it in the fillets or is it already
And that's in oil.
chopped up?
okay.
And they changed my name.
So now, yeah, so, okay, so go ahead and add 3 or 4 of those or maybe
But it
more.
says chopped up, so I need to chop them up, right?
No, they'll just fall apart in the pan.
Okay. So do you think I should put this whole jar in?
No,
I
think
probably
you did too
wouldn't
much.
do that, but I would use a good portion of them.
oh, okay, I see it's in pieces.
Yeah, I've got this really nice skinny fork here.
So it calls for 4, so you need to add 8.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now take your wooden spoon if you got a wooden spoon, and kind of stir
Even though
this
this
stuff
is
up.
packed in oil, I guess there is some moisture in it.
Yeah,
It
take a
doesn't
wooden,
look like you have
I have to
8
turn you
fillets in
guys
there.
up because I can't hear you.
Or do you have 8 fillets in there? It doesn't look like it.
you can add more.
Should I just go ahead and add that tomato sauce in it right away?
Yeah, take a wooden spoon and kind of mash those anchovies up a little bit.
Sparking all over the place.
Yeah, start opening
I didn't
your.
expect that because the fish was packed in oil. I didn't expect like a lot of moisture, but I guess the actual fish itself had moisture. All right. Fred, you said I can add the tomato sauce, right?
Yeah. And then you
turn
can,
it down a little bit.
yeah. Now you can add
I
your.
have a question for you, everybody. Do you guys always wash out the can and save
Yeah,
that
I do.
little
I
bit
do.
of
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Yep, that's what my mother used to do.
Now you can open up your olives.
What did Orges do when he opened the lid? And
Now you said calamari olives.
Kalamata.
Calamari.
You want to take. I mean, if you're going to use that whole can, you could just drain them, and just pour them in if you want to use them. But it helps you want to chop them up.
Hey, Fred, I have a question about the anchovies.
Yeah.
What's that?
The anchovies, are they only in oil or how do you, because I've never bought anchovies before.
I think they're always in oil.
Okay, because I'm running to a store right now to buy some.
Yeah, they're all in oil, and they come in different size containers. That one Or's got is pretty sizable, but you can just get the smallest one you can find of anchovies, and then use it. Use the whole thing when
Cool, I can do that.
So I'm chopping up. You feel like I just go ahead and put the whole can in here because I'm doing a double batch.
Yeah, more olives.
So, yep. I think that
Yeah,
I
because
want to
for your
open the
dish,
pot of water and check it, but what do they say? A watch pot doesn't boil.
Yeah, and for you were talking about like a cup of olives for your batch. So think about that.
So Fred, when you say that you freeze them, do you only you just freeze the sauce?
No, I do the whole thing. You're going to add the pastas to the sauce or vice versa. No, I mix it all up and I freeze the pasta and the sauce all in one batch, in small portions, in one meal portions.
So like in a pint bag or a quart bag.
Yeah, in a quart bag, and then I just defrost it, and pasta in the microwave, it defrosts really fast. When it's frozen, it doesn't take very long at all.
I think frozen pasta is Italian sacrilege, but
Well, it doesn't affect the flavor in my experience. Okay, and then you want capers, so they talk about a quarter or a cup, so I would say in your case like a half a cup of capers.
so let's see. Yeah, I mean, this right here basically says it has 4 tablespoons for the whole container, but you don't want the juice in it, right?
No, you don't want the vinegar. Yeah, so you want to drain those.
Where do capers come from?
They're a little berry like they grow on a bush. And then they're picked and then they're pickled.
Are
Do they grow in the Middle
Italian or-
East? I was
They're
thinking,
Italian. Well, I think they're basically Italian, yeah.
okay, I was thinking Israeli. But you might be right. I don't know.
Yeah. And then you want to add your red pepper. Now they talk about a quarter teaspoon for a regular batch, but if you like it hotter, you want to.
Well, actually, I'm doing a double batch, so I need to put another can of tomatoes in.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
The only thing fresh in here is the garlic. But again, but garlic stays good for a really long time.
Well, that's right. And in a pinch, you could use, powdered garlic or garlic salt or something like that.
So this is, I actually had all this stuff in my kitchen except the anchovies.
Yeah.
And it took me a little bit to track down a place to get some anchovies, but.
Okay, so you're going to bring this to a boil. And then after it gets boiling, you want to turn it down to a simmer. Now, Or's using crushed tomatoes, but if you're using like diced tomatoes, you want to take like a, I don't know, potato masher or a wooden spoon and kind of press down on the little bits of tomato so it kind of breaks them up.
And I almost only buy these fire roasted ones.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I found out that it increases the flavor so much that I could use like less if I want to make, it just, I would say the equivalent of roasted garlic.
Yeah, stir your pan up there and kind of mix your ingredients.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think the other pot's definitely boiling.
Okay.
But here, I need to stir this first.
Yeah, you could turn turn the spaghetti pot down a little bit because it'll be real easy to. Because what we're going to do here is we're going to simmer this so the sauce thickens.
Now, simmer it covered or uncovered?
Uncovered, because you want it to thicken, and it gets thick by the moisture boiling off.
Okay, so leave it uncovered.
Yeah.
Well, it looks pretty good. What about salt? You're not adding any salt?
Don't add salt because every single ingredient in there is salty. The olives are salty, the anchovies are really salty, and the capers are salty. So don't add any salt. You can always add later, but
canned tomatoes.
Tomatoes.
This one has salt in it. It's got sea salt.
Yeah. I try to do.
You will have to add water.
You don't add water to it.
Yeah. If you put more salt, let's see. So how much pepper do I put in?
Well, they call for a quarter teaspoon, a half a teaspoon. So I would say you just learned the other day that a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons.
So I'm doubling it up. So put 1 teaspoon in there.
Yeah, I would say that at least. Yeah. Maybe even a little more.
Well, I do like it spicy, so I'm
yeah. There you go. Yeah. And after it's finished and it doesn't seem like it's spicy enough for you, you can always add a little cayenne pepper or something like that. You probably don't want to add the chili flakes at the end because they won't kind of cook down. So if it's not hot enough, you just use I would use a little cayenne pepper or something if you want to make it hotter.
Okay. The spaghetti water is definitely, you said not to cover this. All right.
Yeah, leave that open. And yeah, so now we're just
that's the sauce, and now you just let it boil and simmer.
Yeah, and the pasta is going to take about the sauce is going to take about 15 minutes, and the pasta is going to take about 9 minutes. So if you were trying to make it come out just right, you could sort of time it that, oh yeah, I'll put my pasta in, so they both reach the. They're both done at the same time.
I did forget to put any oil in the water.
That's okay. You don't need that.
Sometimes.
You just with pasta, you just stir it as it's initially cooking, so it doesn't all get stuck together. So you have to kind of stir it at the very beginning until it.
I always remember we put a pinch of salt and a little bit of oil in our pasta water, and I always wondered why.
Yeah,
I never got a good answer.
Yeah, there's a different.
Some people told me that the salt makes it boil quicker, and the oil makes it not stick together. And
yeah, there's different people have different opinions on it.
Right.
The only one opinion that most people agree on is that when you when you're making pasta, you want to save some of the water. You can use a little measuring cup and sort of dip it in there and get some of the pasta water before you drain your pasta, because that starchy water you can put back into your sauce, and it really helps the sauce, and it helps the sauce stick to the spaghetti.
So how about when you cook the pasta, do you cover the pot or always leave it open and stir it?
Leave it open, otherwise it boils over sometimes. So,
well, Fred, I finally have a pot big enough for your happiness.
There you go.
I don't think that'll boil over. I mean,
stir your sauce occasionally, just a little bit.
Because I mean, look here, 2 pounds of pasta.
Yeah.
It's not even like half full.
Yeah.
That's my canning pot when I cook a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Before I can stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big use a lot of water, but the more recent things I've heard about was, you know what, you don't need huge amounts of water for pasta. And I was kind of surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, so I just read, who do you think is the country that eats the most pasta and the second most pasta?
For some reason, it's probably not the Italians.
No, China.
Italians are number one.
Chinese.
It's like, and then who do you think's 3?
The Spanish.
I read, at least in this survey, Tunisia.
Wow.
So well, I don't know.
Couscous could qualify as pasta.
True.
And then, I mean, Tunisia is just like, what, on the border of Europe and Africa.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
kind of take your spoon and sort of go into your sauce and make sure there's not any whole anchovies floating around in there.
Oh, yeah, I guess that would really get you if you're like...
Yeah. Yeah, usually, like I say, at the very beginning, when I've got the garlic and the anchovies, I usually take a back of a big spoon and I press down to sort of break the anchovies apart, but they pretty much disappear in the sauce.
I guess if you don't use crushed tomatoes, do you get like a potato masher?
Yeah.
And so far, I mean, I'm picking it up and I don't see a single anchovy in it.
Yeah, that's my point. When people think about anchovies, they're thinking, oh God, I'll have a big anchovy in my dish, and it just falls apart. And trust me, it really enhances the flavor. But
all right, so it's really simmering. I'm going to turn it down to just barely. But all right. What are you guys' tests on how to check if pasta's ready? The old what do you call it? Test on throwing it at the refrigerator. Do you guys do that one?
I always take a little piece and put it in my mouth and chew it up.
I do the same thing.
So you don't like getting the pasta and like throwing it at the wall and see if it sticks kind of test?
I heard about that.
I've heard about it, but
it's fun to do when your kids are around.
Keep in mind that your pasta will keep on cooking even after you've drained it because it's hot. So you don't want, unless you want it mushy, you want to kind of make sure it's al dente before you you know, drain it. So you've got a colander in your sink, right?
Oh yes,
Yeah, okay.
I use that to drain the
Yeah.
The olives.
Yeah.
I just poured them in there.
So this is it basically. It's just a matter of letting the sauce boil down. Obviously, you don't have to. If you like it more liquidy, you can do that.
Now, is there any variations like?
Well, yeah. If you like less tomato, don't have to use so much tomato in it. This is not a real. It's not really a tomato dish. We're not making like marinara here. So tomatoes are not really the big flavor ingredient. So again, you have to sort of find a happy medium with tomatoes. If you kind of like tomatoes, you can have more. If you don't like them too much, you can have less. This calls for 28-ounce can. So sometimes I think my last batch I used 28 ounces and it was okay because with all that spaghetti, it kind of gets lost in there. It's not like overly tomatoey.
Yeah, I guess I haven't tasted this sauce yet.
Yeah, give it a little taste.
So maybe because I don't feel like I put that much garlic. I put like 6 giant cloves in.
Well, give it a taste.
But I have a lot of. I really like this, roasted garlic.
Yeah, well,
garlic powder.
You could kick it up a notch with that if it tastes like it needs garlic.
I don't taste anchovies at all.
Yeah, no, you won't. That's my point. Yeah. They're more of a flavor enhancer.
So here, let me get proper. It is very flavorful, but it's interesting. Not one flavor overpowers the other flavor.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe I'd have to add more garlic, but I think it's
a nice
okay.
combination. Like you say, you could, if you wanted to, you could have sauteed onions and or mushrooms at the beginning, if you like that, but it doesn't call for it.
So let's see here, one of these. I think it's. Well, I mean, it will be in the tomato sauce, so it'll continue to cook. I mean, that's pretty.
What I'm going to suggest
over al dente.
What I'm going to suggest, is once you drain your pasta, then put it back in the big pot and then pour the sauce into the big pot.
Yeah. So.
Because you need to stir it up and mix it all together, and that your skillet's not going to be able to contain.
But I won't need the flame anymore.
No.
All right. Drain this pasta. See, I mean, look, this is a big pot of pasta.
Yeah.
What is it? 1 pound?
Yeah, the original recipe calls for 1 pound, and you did 2.
I mean, 1 pound of pasta becomes how many pounds once it's cooked?
A lot.
I should know that, but I don't.
Yeah. So where are we time-wise? Oh, we're doing good. So
spaghetti back in.
Yeah, and don't rinse your pasta. Some people want to rinse it. That's a no-no. Just drain it.
You need the starch on the pasta
only
to
3
have
of them
all the
missed the
stuff to
pot.
stick to it.
Yeah, that's right. And I talked about earlier, he already drained it, but you can also hold back a little of the pasta water when you're...
Well, I think if you're not putting sauce on it, you do want to keep a little bit of pasta water to add back into it.
Yeah, it helps the sauce stick to the spaghetti.
Oh, yeah. even in that short amount of time, it actually did thicken up decently.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this is there's nothing in there that like, oh, I'm going to worry because it's not going to be cooked. Everything's going to be cooked. So if you take it off earlier or later, it doesn't really
Oh,
make
I
much
did
difference.
forget to add Parmesan, but you
Well,
put
that's when you,
Parmesan on it when you serve it, right?
when you serve it. So notice how it's more spaghetti than anything else, and that's the whole point.
It has a little bit of moisture, but I think really quickly it will soak up that little bit of moisture that's still left in there.
Yeah. And in Italy, they don't put that much sauce on pasta like they do in the US. They have a tendency to have more pasta and less sauce.
Like,
That is
so
true.
all the bits you got. But I don't see any of the anchovies, but I can see the capers and the olives.
Yeah.
So,
Now you can grate some cheese.
now you serve this like with, what do you serve it with?
Oh, you could have a side salad, something like
Before we
that.
start cooking, you said red wine,
Probably red wine. I'm not a
side
big red wine
salad.
drinker, but red wine would probably go best with it.
Do you tend to do garlic bread or no?
You could if you want. It's kind of a lot of carbs with the bread, but
So
I tend to
Fred,
not use a garlic bread because you've got garlic and you kind of got your flavorful, your salty garlic in the sauce. So I would use a regular
yeah, the
and then
bread might
maybe
be
get some
overkill
olive
because, like
oil
you
for
say,
dipping.
yeah, it's a lot of carbs, and then when you add cheese and all that to your bread, I mean, it's the same thing that's already in your dish.
Right.
You would
And
think
you
with
typically
all
made with
this
spaghetti
savory,
noodles?
I mean, there's
Yeah, you could
quite
put
a
a
lot
little,
of
chopped
umami.
you could add a little chopped parsley, fresh chopped parsley, or something like that to it. Also, if you had some.
So Fred, can you use any type of pasta, or is it really for spaghetti noodles?
I think you could use any kind. I usually use whole wheat pasta because I like whole wheat pasta, but I think you could probably use it any kind of pasta. And
Or
that's
any
it.
shape?
Yeah, I mean, you could use penne or one of the, macaroni and all those other kinds. I think it's probably better with a noodle, but
What about rice? Can you use rice?
say that again.
If you can use rice instead of pasta.
Use rice instead?
Yeah, I think you could if you wanted to.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah.
That would be good for when you come home and you need to make something quickly. And your
Yeah.
family's hungry. It's like, I've got rice, I've got tomatoes, throw it all together.
Yeah, well, if you put that water on it, when you first get this idea, I think I'm going to make this. First thing you want to do is get your water on because the pasta is going to take like 7 to 9 minutes. So you get that
You
water
can get
going,
the rest done, right?
and then by the time that water is boiling, your other stuff is just about ready.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, the longest part is getting the water boiling, not the cooking. So.
Exactly.
That's right.
They
All
both
right.
take
Water.
they both take about the same length of time.
You get all the ingredients ready while the water's getting ready to boil, and then your pasta's cooking and your sauce is simmering. Hopefully, usually.
Yeah, and it goes, obviously you saw that you just take your garlic, you just sort of saute it for like a minute, then you put the anchovies in another minute, and then after that, boom, you put all your ingredients in. So that doesn't take very long. And
technically, I mean, you could just immediately add it to the pasta, but you'd have a lot more moisture in it then. Yeah, like you say, if you like it thinner, you could not cook it down as much. If you like it thicker, you could let it cook until it's really thick. So it's just a matter of personal preference. Because the flavors are not related so much to the thickness. They're all in they're in that sauce. So it's just a matter of personal taste. And if you stir it up pretty good, the flavor is on all of the pasta. So I guess I should actually taste it to tell you what I think, right? Do you have Parmesan?
Did you put the cheese
Absolutely.
on it? Did you put the cheese on it?
Not yet, I guess.
Put some
Well,
cheese
don't-
on
You
it.
want me to
taste
do
it
it
yet.
completely correct, huh?
Yeah, you want to have cheese before
Well,
serving.
I just have this. I have actual Parmesan, but I have to dig it out of the back of the fridge.
No, it's okay. If that's what you got.
I really like good Parmesan. You just take a sliver of it as a snack. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I've been eating too much of it, so I hid it in the back of the fridge, and I have to. There's a whole bunch of stuff stacked in front of it.
To keep yourself from eating it so much.
You really want to buy Parmigiano Reggiano. It's expensive. It's made in Italy, but you know, a little goes a long way. I say put your money in Parmigiano Reggiano. Don't buy. There's all kinds of Parmesans you can buy that are cheap, but trust me, you want to go for the real stuff. If you're gonna splurge a little bit, go with the real thing. It makes all the difference in the world.
Now, my question for the pasta eaters, do you eat with a spoon and a fork where you like twirled it on there? A real Italian told me you never do that. You want to like, you know,
I
get
never
into it and like let it slop all over your place. But I was just like,
yeah, the Italians, I don't think
civilized.
The Italians do not. When I was in Italy,
they're like, you never twirl it. You just get it.
And they don't cut it up.
No, they don't. At home, we would twirl it in a spoon.
Oh.
You know, our parents had us do
good,
that.
huh?
But when I went to Italy,
So you bite it and then bite it off and let the extra drop in your plate. Like, you know, people tend to get it and swirl it.
Yeah.
Or get a spoon and put it in. Like, I always do the spoon. I do too.
That's what we did.
But the proper way, I don't know. Everybody eats different, but.
Some of you may have seen when I showed the movie Tom Popo.
Mm.
And it's kind of a Japanese spaghetti Western. And there's a scene in it where it's kind of like a finishing school. And there's very proper women with all these young Japanese girls. And they're kind of in a restaurant. And she's explaining to them that, you know, in Japan, slurping is part of the procedure. You slurp your noodle.
Out of respect.
And she's saying to them, in America, you don't slurp at all. And she takes up one little thing of spaghetti and you see it slowly go into her mouth, but with no slurp. She's telling, and they're all trying to practice because they never ate noodles like that. In the meantime, you hear this slurping. You're hearing this slurping noise and the camera pans around and it's a gringo guy over there eating spaghetti or something, slurping like crazy.
So she's trying to teach him that in America that you don't slurp, and the guy. Yeah. So look how much anchovies I still have. I mean, because it's in oil, that was the only thing. Usually when I open something, I use the whole thing. I think I could probably, I put eight of them in there, doubling the recipe. But I think I could have probably put 30% more and it would have been fine. But
also, even though
they're easy to go over with anchovies, I feel.
Even though they're in oil, I think now that they're open, you'll probably have to refrigerate them.
Well, that was my question. I have questions about the anchovies and the capers. In the past, when I haven't cooked much with anchovies, but I suspect my question applies to both. When I cook with capers, I buy the smallest jar because I don't need that many, and I end up not using them. So can you freeze these if you're not going to use the entire amount for a certain amount of time?
Capers are a pickle, so just keep them, make sure they're covered with liquid.
I buy like a quart size of capers and I keep them in the fridge and they last practically forever.
So like pickles or olives, you just keep them in the fridge?
Yeah, exactly.
And what about the anchovies? What if you're not going to use all of the jars?
Get the smallest one you can, and usually in the stores they come in real small containers because people don't use a lot.
Yeah, usually they're smaller than this, but this
much smaller.
For some reason this was the only one I could find. They're usually.
I'm gonna go see. I've got one here.
Or a little can. It's
so
like
what do you do?
I just bought 2 containers.
Now, if you put this and poured oil in it and covered the top of it, it would last a really long time because there's no place for the oxygen to get in there. So
and where would you put it? In the refrigerator, I assume?
Yep.
Just put oil in the refrigerator?
This is 2 ounces.
Oh, yeah, the little teeny can. That's usually what I find.
Pick a spot, Fred.
And it only holds like 3 or 4 little fish in it.
That's 2 ounces. Well, it's got more than that, but I usually just use a whole can because, like you say, what am I going to save them for? And nothing. So just get
this
the
jar
smallest
is
can.
4.25 ounces, so it's like
That's
double.
twice as many. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And, or did you buy them at a regular supermarket in Carbondale, or because we're so
I don't remember.
small,
I went to like 4 places.
you have to go to
find them.
International Foods?
Yes, that's where I actually ended up getting this.
Yeah.
Most
And they had a
grocers-
hard time finding. They had no idea where, and I found it hidden behind other ones. So I usually I have no
it's
problem
usually-
finding it, but for some reason,
Mhm.
when I actually went looking for them,
Right.
so, all right. Any
They're
final
usually
questions?
near the tuna.
Let's feel free to stick around afterwards to eat and chat, but we'll wrap
Yeah,
up
the
recording.
the anchovies are usually in the tuna area.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
That makes sense too. Okay.
Thank you, Fred, for sharing this.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was actually, like you said, surprised that I don't taste the anchovies at all,
Yeah.
but it elevates the flavor a lot. There's
Yeah.
a lot more umami flavor in it.
That's right. Like you say, people have a tendency to have this thing about, oh, I don't like anchovies because the only time they ever tasted an anchovy was on a pizza.
Right.
So they just say, oh, I don't like anchovies. But
Right.
for Italian or any kind of cooking, they're a big flavor enhancer. Suzanne said it snowed last night in Minneapolis.